Meanwhile, word about the standoff started spreading through the neighborhood. One of our neighbors, Mrs. Carter, saw the whole thing from her porch and started recording on her phone. She's one of the few people around here who actually had our back. That video would end up being a game changer, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Back on the street, Daniels was still playing tough, throwing around accusations, trying to make Aisha look like the bad guy. He didn't know who he was dealing with, and the HOA sure as hell didn't either. They thought they could keep pushing, keep intimidating, keep controlling. But Aisha was about to flip the script in a way they never saw coming. Now, let's swing back to Jamal and that note. When he finally opened it later that night, his hands were shaking. It wasn't just a thank you note, it was something way bigger. The woman on the bus had written something that made his heart race, something that promised a future he'd never even dared to dream about. But before he could even process it, he heard about what happened with Aisha and Daniels. Jamal knew Aisha, she'd always been kind to him, even helped him with his math homework a few times. When he found out Daniels pulled a gun on her, he was furious. That note in his pocket suddenly felt heavier, like it was tied to everything going on in our messed-up neighborhood. He didn't know it yet, but his story and Aisha's were about to collide in a way that would shake things up for everyone. Here's where it gets real. Aisha's staring down this gun, neighbors are starting to gather, and Daniels is losing his cool because she's not backing down. The HOA thought they could keep things quiet, keep their little power trip under wraps, but they didn't count on Aisha's training or the fact that people were watching. And Jamal. That note he got wasn't just a piece of paper, it was a spark that could light up his whole future or burn everything down if the wrong people found out. The tension was thick, the stakes were high, and nobody knew how this was gonna play out. Was Aisha gonna have to show Daniels what a Delta Force operative could really do? Was Jamal's note gonna change his life or put a target on his back? And what was the HOA hiding that made them so desperate to control everything? Yo, you're not gonna believe what happens next, but you gotta stick around for part 2 to find out. Hit that like button, drop a comment, and let me know what you think is in that note. Trust me, this story's just getting started. Yo, everybody, welcome back. If you're just joining us, you gotta check out part 1 to catch up on this wild story. For those who've been with me, let's pick up right where we left off, tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. My wife, Aisha, a retired Delta Force badass, is staring down the barrel of Officer Daniels' gun, her calm like a storm waiting to break. Meanwhile, Jamal, the 17-year-old kid from down the street, is holding a mysterious note that could either be his ticket to a new life or a whole lot of trouble. The HOA's got this neighborhood in a chokehold, and something tells me they're hiding more than just petty rules about lawn decorations. This part's gonna dig deeper into what makes this place tick, who's pulling the strings, and why everything feels like it's about to explode. Buckle up, hit that like button, and let's keep this story rolling. So, let's rewind a bit to give you the full picture. Aisha and I moved to this neighborhood, let's call it Sunny Hills, because we wanted a quiet life after years of her being deployed and me stressing every time she left. Sunny Hills looked perfect on paper, neat rows of houses, kids playing in the streets, and a community pool that was supposed to bring everyone together. But from day one, we felt the vibe was off. The HOA board, led by this guy named Richard Grayson, acted like they were running a small country. Grayson was all smiles at the community meetings, but his eyes were cold, always scanning for anything or anyone that didn't fit his idea of perfect. Aisha picked up on it right away. She'd dealt with power-hungry types in her Delta Force days, and she said Grayson reminded her of the kind of guy who'd sell out his own team to save face. I just thought he was a jerk, but Aisha, she was already watching him like a hawk. Jamal's family had been in Sunny Hills longer than us, but they weren't exactly welcomed with open arms either. His mom, Ms. Tanya, was a single parent working 2 jobs to keep things together. Jamal helped out however he could, mowing lawns, running errands, even tutoring younger kids in the neighborhood. He was saving up for college, dreaming of becoming an engineer. But to the HOA, he was just that kid they needed to keep an eye on. I'd seen Daniels follow him around before, like Jamal was some kind of troublemaker just for existing. Aisha took a liking to him early on. She'd say, that boy's got heart, but this place is gonna test him. She wasn't wrong. The day Jamal got that note on the bus, something shifted. He didn't tell anyone what it said, not even his mom, but I could tell it was weighing on him. He started acting jumpy, checking over his shoulder like he was expecting trouble. Now, about that note. Jamal hadn't told me much, but Aisha got a little out of him when she ran into him at the community mailbox the day before Daniels pulled his stunt. Jamal was fidgeting, clutching his phone like it was a lifeline. Aisha asked him what was up, and he just mumbled something about someone important and an opportunity. He wouldn't say more, but Aisha noticed the corner of that folded note sticking out of his pocket. She didn't push him, she's good at reading when someone needs space, but she told me later she had a gut feeling it was connected to something bigger. In her Delta Force days, she'd learned to trust those instincts. They'd kept her alive in situations most people wouldn't survive. So when she said that note might be trouble, I believed her. And now, with Daniels pointing a gun at her, I was starting to think everything in Sunny Hills was connected in ways we didn't yet understand. Back to that moment on the street. Aisha's standing there, hands up, not even flinching as Daniels tries to play tough guy. Neighbors are starting to peek out their windows, and Mrs. Carter's still recording from her porch, her phone shaking a little but catching every second. Daniels is barking about suspicious activity again, but it's clear he's just fishing for an excuse. Aisha's voice stays steady, like she's talking to a kid throwing a tantrum. "Officer, you're making a mistake," she says, her eyes never leaving his. "You don't know what you're starting." Daniels laughs, but it's nervous, like he's starting to realize she's not scared. That's when I show up, jogging down the street after Mrs. Carter texted me to get over there quick. My heart's pounding, seeing my wife in this situation, but I know better than to rush in. Aisha's got this, she always does. But man, seeing that gun pointed at her, it took everything in me not to lose it. Daniels notices me and shouts for me to stay back. I freeze, hands up, trying to keep things calm. "She's my wife," I say, my voice shaking more than I'd like. "She's not doing anything wrong." He swings the gun toward me for a second, and I swear, my life flashes before my eyes. But Aisha, she doesn't even blink. She steps forward, just a little, enough to pull his attention back to her. "Focus on me," she says, low and firm. It's like she's daring him to make a move. I'm freaking out, but I can see she's in control, using every bit of her training to keep this from going south. The neighbors are whispering now, some of them stepping out onto their lawns. Mrs. Carter's video is still rolling, and I'm praying it's enough to make sure whatever happens next doesn't get swept under the rug. While all this is going down, Jamal's at home, staring at that note again. He told me later he couldn't stop reading it, like the words were burning into his brain. The woman on the bus, turns out, she wasn't just some random person. She'd written her name and a phone number, along with a message that hinted at a connection to something big, something that could get Jamal out of Sunny Hills for good. But there was a catch, something in the note that made him nervous. It wasn't just an offer, it was a deal, and deals always come with strings. Jamal was smart enough to know that, but he was also a kid with big dreams and not a lot of options. He wanted to tell Aisha, get her advice, but after hearing about the standoff with Daniels, he was scared. What if the note was tied to the HOA somehow? What if someone was watching him too? The HOA, man, they were the real problem. Grayson and his board weren't just about rules, they were about power. Aisha had done some digging after we got hit with a bunch of fines for dumb stuff, like leaving our trash cans out an hour too long. She found out Grayson had ties to some shady real estate deals in the area, and the HOA was raking in money from fines that never seemed to go toward fixing the community pool or repaving the roads. It was like they were running a scam, and people like us, black, brown, or just not their kind, were the targets. Aisha had been keeping notes, talking to neighbors, trying to figure out what they were really up to. She hadn't told me everything yet, but I knew she was onto something. That's why Daniels was so quick to pull his gun. He wasn't just a jerk, he was protecting something. Or someone. As the standoff dragged on, I could see Aisha's patience wearing thin. She wasn't gonna let Daniels push her around, but she also wasn't about to give the HOA an excuse to paint her as the bad guy. She kept talking, slow and deliberate, trying to de-escalate. "You're making a scene," she told Daniels. "You really want this on video?" That got his attention. He glanced at Mrs. Carter, then back at Aisha, his grip on the gun tightening. For a second, I thought he might actually do something stupid. My stomach dropped, imagining what Aisha could do if she had to. Delta Force moves aren't exactly subtle. But she held back, her eyes flicking to me, telling me to stay calm. The crowd was growing, phones were out, and the HOA's perfect little world was starting to crack. And Jamal? He was sitting on his couch, the note in his hand, wondering if he should make a call that could change his life or ruin it. The woman's words promised a way out, but they also hinted at something dangerous, something tied to the very people who were making life hell for him and his mom. He didn't know about Aisha's situation yet, but he could feel the weight of Sunny Hills closing in. The HOA, Daniels, that note, it was all connected, and the truth was lurking just out of reach. What was Grayson hiding? Why was Daniels so quick to pull a gun? And what did that note say that had Jamal so spooked? Yo, we're not done yet, this is just the beginning. Stick around for part 3, drop a comment with your guesses about that note, and let's see how deep this rabbit hole goes. Yo, what's good, everybody? We're back for part 3, and if you haven't caught up on parts 1 and 2, hit pause and go watch those first. This story's too wild to jump in halfway. We left off with my wife, Aisha, staring down Officer Daniels' gun in the middle of our messed up neighborhood, Sunny Hills, her Delta Force training keeping her cool while the HOA's dirty secrets simmer in the background. Jamal, the 17-year-old kid with big dreams, is clutching a mysterious note that could be his way out or his downfall. The tension's through the roof, and the HOA's grip on this place is starting to slip as neighbors watch and phones keep recording. This part's gonna dive deep into the heart of the conflict, peel back some layers, and introduce a few new faces who are about to make things even crazier. Grab a snack, smash that like button, and let's get into it. That moment on the street felt like it stretched on forever. Aisha's standing there, hands up, her eyes locked on Daniels like she's reading his soul. He's sweating now, his tough guy act crumbling under her stare. I'm frozen a few yards away, heart pounding, trying not to make things worse. Mrs. Carter's still filming, and more neighbors are creeping out, whispering about what's going down. The HOA's enforcer, Daniels, is starting to realize he's bitten off more than he can chew, but he's too deep to back down now. Aisha's voice cuts through the air, calm but sharp. You're not in control here, she says, and I swear, it's like she's daring him to test her. I know what she's capable of. Delta Force doesn't mess around, but she's holding back, playing it smart. One wrong move, though, and this could go from bad to catastrophic. I'm praying it doesn't come to that, but the way Daniel's hand is shaking on that gun, it's not looking good. While this is happening, let's shift to Jamal, who's still at home, staring at that note like it's a puzzle he can't solve. He finally told me a bit more about it later, and man, it's wild. The woman on the bus, the one he gave his seat to, wasn't just some random lady. Her name was Elizabeth Harper, and the note said she was a recruiter for a tech company that scouts young talent for scholarships and internships. The message was short but heavy. You've got potential, Jamal. Call me. We can open doors, but you need to be ready for what's behind them. It came with a phone number and a weird warning to keep this quiet. Jamal's no fool. He knew an opportunity like this could change his life, maybe get him into a top engineering program. But that warning, it had him spooked. Why the secrecy? And why did he feel like someone was watching him every time he stepped outside? Sunny Hills wasn't just a neighborhood, it was starting to feel like a trap. Now, let's bring in another player, Ms. Tanya, Jamal's mom. She's a force in her own right, working double shifts as a nurse and still finding time to keep Jamal on track. She didn't know about the note yet, but she'd noticed Jamal acting off, pacing around the house, checking his phone every 5 minutes. Tanya had her own run-ins with the HOA. A few months back, they'd hit her with a fine 4 unapproved exterior paint on their front door, even though it was the same color as half the houses on the block. She fought it, went to one of Grayson's meetings, and got nowhere. Grayson just smiled that fake smile and said, "Rules are rules, Miss Tanya." She wasn't buying it. Like Aisha, she'd started asking questions, talking to other neighbors who'd been hit with random fees. Tanya wasn't a Delta Force operative, but she had a mom's instinct, and that was just as fierce. She knew something was rotten in Sunny Hills, and she was starting to wonder if it was tied to why Daniels was always tailing her son. Back on the street, things are getting dicey. Daniels is losing his cool, shouting at Aisha to stop resisting, even though she's standing still as a statue. I'm trying to stay calm, but my hands are shaking, and I can see the crowd getting restless. One neighbor, a guy named Carlos who's lived here forever, steps forward and yells, "Yo, Daniels, what's she even done?" That sets off a murmur in the crowd, and for a second, I think maybe we've got some backup. But then another voice pipes up, Mrs. Larson, one of Grayson's loyal HOA cronies. "She's causing trouble," she snaps, pointing at Aisha like she's the problem. It's classic Sunny Hills. Half the neighbors just want to live their lives, and the other half are ready to snitch for a pat on the head from the HOA. Aisha doesn't even glance at Larson, her focus is all on Daniels. "You're gonna regret this," she says, so quiet I barely hear it, but it's like a bomb dropping in my head. I know that tone. It's the one she used when she was about to take control of a situation. Let's zoom out for a sec and talk about Grayson, the puppet master behind all this. Aisha had been digging into him for weeks, and she'd found some shady stuff. Turns out, Grayson wasn't just some nosy HOA president, he had connections to a real estate company that was buying up properties in the area dirt cheap. Aisha overheard him at a community meeting talking about redevelopment plans that didn't add up. The HOA's fines weren't just about control, they were a way to push people out, especially folks like us who didn't fit their cookie-cutter vision. Aisha had a theory. Grayson was using the HOA to scare off certain families, drive down property values, and then let his buddies swoop in to buy the houses. Daniels was his muscle, making sure nobody asked too many questions. Aisha hadn't told me everything, she said she needed more proof, but I could tell she was close to blowing the lid off this whole thing. That's probably why Daniels was so quick to pull his gun. He wasn't just mad, he was scared she was onto them. Meanwhile, Jamal's at home, still wrestling with that note. He's tempted to call Elizabeth Harper, but something's holding him back. He keeps thinking about Aisha, how she's always had his back, and now she's in trouble. He hears about the standoff from a friend who texts him a clip of Mrs. Carter's video. It's already spreading around the neighborhood. Jamal's furious, but he's also scared. What if the note is tied to the HOA somehow? What if Elizabeth Harper isn't who she says she is? He's stuck, torn between chasing a dream and staying safe in a place that feels less safe every day. He decides to head to our house, hoping to talk to Aisha, not knowing she's in the middle of a showdown that could change everything. Back on the street, the crowd's getting louder, and Daniels is looking rattled. Aisha's still talking him down, her voice steady but firm. "Put it down, Daniels," she says. "You're not helping yourself." He's not listening, though his ego's too bruised. I'm watching, helpless, as more neighbors pull out their phones, recording every second. Mrs. Carter's still going, and I can see her whispering to another neighbor, probably sending that video to someone else. I'm praying it goes viral, because if it does, the HOA's not gonna be able to sweep this under the rug. But then I hear a car pull up, and my heart sinks. It's Grayson, stepping out with that fake smile, acting like he's here to calm things down. But the look he gives Aisha, it's pure venom. He knows she's trouble not just for Daniels, but for whatever he's hiding. As Grayson starts talking, trying to spin this like Aisha's the problem, Jamal shows up at the edge of the crowd. He's out of breath, eyes wide, clutching that note in his pocket. He sees Aisha, sees the gun, and freezes. I catch his eye, and I can tell he's torn. Does he step in, or does he stay back? The note's burning a hole in his pocket, and I'm starting to wonder if it's connected to Grayson's schemes. Is Elizabeth Harper part of this? Is the HOA watching Jamal too? Aisha's still holding her ground, but I can see her sizing up Grayson now, not just Daniels. She knows he's the real threat. The air's electric, the crowd's buzzing, and I'm standing there, heart racing, wondering how this is gonna end. Is Aisha gonna have to show her Delta Force skills? Is Jamal's note gonna bring trouble to our doorstep? And what's Grayson's next move? Yo, this is getting crazier by the second. Stick around for part 4, drop a comment with your thoughts, and let's figure out what's really going on in Sunny Hills. Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to part 4 of this crazy story. If you haven't seen parts 1 through 3, Go check them out now, because things are about to hit a whole new level of wild. We left off with my wife, Aisha, a retired Delta Force legend, facing down Officer Daniel's gun in the middle of Sunny Hills, while HOA boss Richard Grayson steps in, pretending to play peacemaker but throwing off some serious bad vibes. Jamal's in the crowd, clutching that mysterious note from Elizabeth Harper, torn between hope and fear about what it could mean. The neighborhood's buzzing, phones are recording, and the HOA's dirty secrets are starting to bubble up. This part's gonna crank the suspense to the max, pushing everything to the edge without giving away how it all ends. So, grab a drink, hit that like button, and let's dive into the chaos. The street's like a powder keg ready to blow. Aisha's still standing tall, hands up, her eyes flicking between Daniels and Grayson. Daniels is sweating buckets, his gun still pointed at her, but you can tell he's rattled, her calm is freaking him out. Grayson's trying to take charge, his voice all smooth and fake caring. Let's all relax, Officer Daniels, he says, but the way he looks at Aisha says he'd rather see her gone. I'm standing there, heart hammering, trying to figure out how to help without making things worse. The crowd's getting louder, some neighbors, like Carlos, are shouting for Daniels to back off, while Grayson's cronies, like Mrs. Larson, are whispering poison, saying Aisha's dangerous. Mrs. Carter's still filming, and I'm praying her video's gonna be the key to exposing this mess. But right now, it's Aisha versus Daniels, with Grayson pulling strings, and I'm scared one wrong move could set everything off. Jamal's at the edge of the crowd, his hand in his pocket, gripping that note like it's his lifeline. He's watching Aisha, his face a mix of anger and worry. He told me later he was thinking about her helping him with math, how she always believed in him when nobody else did. Seeing her like this, with a gun in her face, is killing him. But that note from Elizabeth Harper's burning in his mind too. He's itching to call her, to see if her offer's real, a scholarship, a shot at an engineering degree, a way out of Sunny Hills. But that warning to keep it quiet has him paranoid. What if Harper's connected to Grayson? What if the HOA's got eyes on him too? He catches my eye, and I can see he's about to do something, step forward, say something, anything, but then Grayson's voice cuts through, and Jamal freezes. Grayson's playing the crowd now, turning on that HOA charm. Folks, let's not escalate this, he says, like he's some kind of hero. This is just a misunderstanding. But Aisha's not buying it. She lowers her hands just a fraction, enough to show she's not scared, and says, misunderstanding? Your guy's pointing a gun at me for jogging. You wanna explain that, Grayson? The crowd gasps, and I swear, Grayson's fake smile twitches. Daniels flinches too, his gun dipping for a second, but he pulls it back up, shouting, don't move. Aisha doesn't even blink. I know that look, she's done diffusing. Her Delta Force instincts are kicking in, and I'm terrified she's about to disarm Daniels right here, right now. I want her to, but I also know that'd give the HOA exactly what they need to spin her as the bad guy. While this is going down, Ms. Tanya, Jamal's mom, shows up. Someone must have texted her, because she comes running, pushing through the crowd, her nurse's scrubs still on from her shift. She sees Jamal and grabs his arm, whispering, what's going on? He tries to explain, but he's stumbling over his words, still clutching that note. Tanya spots Aisha and Daniels, and her face hardens. She's had her own battles with the HOA, those fines, those meetings where Grayson dismissed her like she was nothing. She starts to step forward, ready to back Aisha up, but Jamal holds her back, whispering something about the note. I can't hear what he says, but Tanya's eyes widen, and she looks at him like he's just dropped a bomb. Whatever's in that note, it's got her spooked too, and now I'm wondering if it's tied to the same mess Aisha's been digging into, Grayson's real estate deals, the HOA's shady fines, all of it. Let's talk about Aisha's digging for a sec. She'd been piecing things together for weeks, and she told me bits and pieces that were starting to click. Grayson's real estate buddies weren't just buying houses, they were targeting specific ones, like ours, like Jamal's. Aisha found paperwork at the county office showing properties in Sunny Hills being sold at way below market value, and Grayson's name kept popping up in the fine print. She'd even followed him one day, saw him meeting some suit in a fancy car outside town. She didn't have proof yet, but she was sure the HOA's fines and Daniel's harassment were part of a plan to push out families like ours, make room for Grayson's cronies to profit. She'd been careful, keeping her notes hidden, but I'm starting to think Daniels pulled that gun because Grayson knew she was getting too close. Back on the street, the tension's so thick I can barely breathe. Grayson's still talking, trying to calm the crowd, but it's not working. Carlos yells, "This ain't right, man," and a few others join in. Mrs. Larson's shouting back, saying we're all troublemakers, but more neighbors are siding with us now, their phones out, recording everything. Daniels looks like he's about to snap, his gun still on Aisha, but her voice cuts through again. "Grayson," she says, loud enough for everyone to hear, "why don't you tell them about your real estate deals?" The crowd goes dead silent. Grayson's face freezes, and for a split second, I see panic in his eyes. Daniels glances at him, confused, and that's when I know Aisha's hit a nerve. She's got something on him, and he knows it. Jamal's watching all this, and I can see him making a decision. He pulls out his phone, his hands shaking, and starts typing something. I'm guessing he's texting Elizabeth Harper, ready to take a chance on that note, but Tanya grabs his wrist, shaking her head. "Not now," she whispers, her voice tight. Jamal looks torn, but he puts the phone away. I'm dying to know what's in that note, what kind of doors Harper's talking about, and why it's got them both so on edge. Is she legit, or is she part of Grayson's game? And if she's not, what's she hiding that's got Jamal so paranoid? The crowd's getting restless, and I can feel the moment building to something big, something nobody's gonna walk away from unchanged. Then, out of nowhere, a siren cuts through the air. Another patrol car's pulling up, and I don't know if it's backup for Daniels or someone else entirely. Grayson's smile is back, but it's shaky, like he's not sure what's coming either. Jamal's looking at his mom, then at Aisha, and I can see he's about to make a move, maybe say something, maybe run. Tanya's holding him tight, but her eyes are on Grayson, like she's putting pieces together too. Aisha's still in the center of it all, unflinching, but I can tell she's ready for anything. Is she gonna take Daniels down? Is that note gonna blow this whole thing wide open? And what's Grayson's next move? Yo, we're right at the edge now, part 5's coming, and it's gonna be insane. Drop a comment with your guesses about that note or what Aisha's gonna do next, and let's see how this explodes. Yo, what's good, everybody? We're diving into part 5, and if you haven't caught up on the first 4 parts, hit pause and go watch those now. This story's too intense to jump in cold. We left off with Aisha, my Delta Force-trained wife, staring down Officer Daniels' gun in the middle of Sunny Hills, while HOA kingpin Richard Grayson steps in, pretending to play peacemaker but throwing off some serious bad vibes. Jamal's in the crowd, clutching that mysterious note from Elizabeth Harper, torn between chasing a life-changing opportunity and fearing it's a trap. Miss Tanya's holding him back, the neighbors are recording, and a new patrol car just rolled up with sirens blaring, making everyone's heart race. The tension's off the charts, and now we're about to throw in a twist that'll flip this whole thing upside down. Buckle up, smash that like button, and let's see how much crazier this gets. The siren's wail cuts through the crowd like a knife, and all eyes turn to the new patrol car screeching to a stop. I'm expecting another Daniels clone to jump out, ready to back up the HOA's muscle, but instead, a woman steps out tall, no nonsense, with a badge that says Sheriff's Department. My stomach does a flip. This isn't one of Grayson's rente cops, this is someone from outside Sunny Hills. Aisha's eyes flick to her, quick but subtle, like she's sizing up a new player in the game. Daniels lowers his gun just a fraction, looking confused, and Grayson's fake smile falters. "Sheriff Monroe," he says, stepping forward, trying to keep that smooth vibe. "No need for county involvement here. Just a minor neighborhood issue." But Monroe's not having it. She walks right past him, eyes locked on Daniels. "Lower your weapon, officer," she says, her voice sharp enough to make the air feel colder. Daniels hesitates, glancing at Grayson like a kid waiting for permission. That's when I know Grayson's losing control, and this sheriff's about to change everything. While Monroe's staring down Daniels, I catch Jamal in the corner of my eye. He's still clutching that note, his mom's hand tight on his arm. Tanya's whispering something, her face tense, and Jamal's nodding, but he looks like he's about to bolt. That note from Elizabeth Harper's got him shook. He told me later it wasn't just the scholarship offer that had him rattled, it was the part about being ready for what's behind the doors. He'd done some digging on his phone, looked up Harper's name, and found out she wasn't just a recruiter. She was tied to a big tech firm with contracts in real estate development, contracts that sounded a lot like the shady deals Aisha had been sniffing out with Grayson. Was Harper legit, offering Jamal a way out, or was she part of the same scheme pushing families like ours out of Sunny Hills? Jamal's gut was screaming trap, but the idea of a scholarship was too big to let go. He pulls his phone out again, fingers hovering over the screen, ready to text Harper, but Tanya shakes her head, her eyes saying, "Not yet." Back on the street, Sheriff Monroe's presence is like a spark in a room full of gas. Daniels finally lowers his gun, but he's still gripping it, his face red with frustration. Aisha relaxes just a bit, her hands still up, but I can see her mind working. She's not just watching Daniels now, she's watching Monroe, Grayson, the whole scene. Grayson's trying to spin things, talking fast about community safety and misunderstandings, but Monroe cuts him off. "I got a call about an officer pulling a gun on a civilian," she says, her voice steady but loaded. "And I'm seeing a lot of phones out, so I'm guessing there's video. Care to explain, Mr. Grayson?" The crowd murmurs, and Mrs. Carter, still filming, steps forward, holding up her phone like it's a weapon. "I've got it all right here," she says, loud enough for everyone to hear. Grayson's eyes narrow, and for a second, I swear he looks like he wants to snatch that phone and smash it. Here's where things take a wild turn. As Monroe starts questioning Daniels, asking why he's got a gun on a woman who was just jogging, a guy in a suit steps out of the crowd. Nobody noticed him before. He's been hanging back, quiet, but now he's moving forward, calm but confident. He's got a fancy watch, polished shoes, and a vibe that screams money. "Sheriff," he says, his voice smooth as silk, "I'm sure we can clear this up. I represent some interested parties in the area." My heart sinks. Aisha's eyes snap to him, and I know she's thinking the same thing I am. This guy's tied to Grayson's real estate deals. She told me about those suits she saw Grayson meeting, the ones buying up Sunny Hills properties for cheap. This guy's one of them, and he's here, in the middle of this mess, acting like he can smooth it all over. The crowd's confused, whispering, but Aisha's laser-focused. "Who are you?" she asks, her voice low but carrying weight. The suit smiles, but it's cold. "Just a concerned investor," he says. "No need for this to get out of hand. Play peacemaker but throwing off some serious bad vibes." Jamal's in the crowd, clutching that mysterious note from Elizabeth Harper, torn between chasing a life-changing opportunity and fearing it's a trap. Ms. Tanya's holding him back, the neighbors are recording, and a new patrol car just rolled up with sirens blaring, making everyone's heart race. The tension's off the charts, and now we're about to throw in a twist that'll flip this whole thing upside down. Buckle up, smash that like button, and let's see how much crazier this gets. The siren's wail cuts through the crowd like a knife, and all eyes turn to the new patrol car screeching to a stop. I'm expecting another Daniels clone to jump out, ready to back up the HOA's muscle, but instead, a woman steps out tall, no nonsense, with a badge that says Sheriff's Department. My stomach does a flip. This isn't one of Grayson's rente cops, this is someone from outside Sunny Hills. Aisha's eyes flick to her, quick but subtle, like she's sizing up a new player in the game. Daniels lowers his gun just a fraction, looking confused, and Grayson's fake smile falters. "Sheriff Monroe," he says, stepping forward, trying to keep that smooth vibe. "No need for county involvement here. Just a minor neighborhood issue." But Monroe's not having it. She walks right past him, eyes locked on Daniels. "Lower your weapon, officer," she says, her voice sharp enough to make the air feel colder. Daniels hesitates, glancing at Grayson like a kid waiting for permission. That's when I know Grayson's losing control, and this sheriff's about to change everything. While Monroe's staring down Daniels, I catch Jamal in the corner of my eye. He's still clutching that note, his mom's hand tight on his arm. Tanya's whispering something, her face tense, and Jamal's nodding, but he looks like he's about to bolt. That note from Elizabeth Harper's got him shook. He told me later it wasn't just the scholarship offer that had him rattled, it was the part about being ready for what's behind the doors. He'd done some digging on his phone, looked up Harper's name, and found out she wasn't just a recruiter. She was tied to a big tech firm with contracts in real estate development, contracts that sounded a lot like the shady deals Aisha had been sniffing out with Grayson. Was Harper legit, offering Jamal a way out, or was she part of the same scheme pushing families like ours out of Sunny Hills? Jamal's gut was screaming trap, but the idea of a scholarship was too big to let go. He pulls his phone out again, fingers hovering over the screen, ready to text Harper, but Tanya shakes her head, her eyes saying, "Not yet." Back on the street, Sheriff Monroe's presence is like a spark in a room full of gas. Daniels finally lowers his gun, but he's still gripping it, his face red with frustration. Aisha relaxes just a bit, her hands still up, but I can see her mind working. She's not just watching Daniels now, she's watching Monroe, Grayson, the whole scene. Grayson's trying to spin things, talking fast about community safety and misunderstandings, but Monroe cuts him off. "I got a call about an officer pulling a gun on a civilian," she says, her voice steady but loaded. "And I'm seeing a lot of phones out, so I'm guessing there's video. Care to explain, Mr. Grayson?" The crowd murmurs, and Mrs. Carter, still filming, steps forward, holding up her phone like it's a weapon. "I've got it all right here," she says, loud enough for everyone to hear. Grayson's eyes narrow, and for a second, I swear he looks like he wants to snatch that phone and smash it. Here's where things take a wild turn. As Monroe starts questioning Daniels, asking why he's got a gun on a woman who was just jogging, a guy in a suit steps out of the crowd. Nobody noticed him before. He's been hanging back, quiet, but now he's moving forward, calm but confident. He's got a fancy watch, polished shoes, and a vibe that screams money. "Sheriff," he says, his voice smooth as silk, "I'm sure we can clear this up. I represent some interested parties in the area." My heart sinks. Aisha's eyes snap to him, and I know she's thinking the same thing I am. This guy's tied to Grayson's real estate deals. She told me about those suits she saw Grayson meeting, the ones buying up Sunny Hills properties for cheap. This guy's one of them, and he's here, in the middle of this mess, acting like he can smooth it all over. The crowd's confused, whispering, but Aisha's laser-focused. "Who are you?" she asks, her voice low but carrying weight. The suit smiles, but it's cold. "Just a concerned investor," he says. "No need for this to get out of hand." That's when the twist hits. The suit guy glances at Jamal, just for a second, but it's enough to make my blood run cold. Jamal notices it too, and his face goes pale. He leans into Tanya, whispering something, and she grips his arm tighter, like she's shielding him. I'm starting to put it together. Elizabeth Harper, the note, this suit guy, Grayson's deals. Are they all connected? Is Jamal's scholarship offer some kind of bait to pull him into whatever Grayson's cooking? Aisha's been digging into the HOA scams, and now this suit's here, acting like he owns the place. I'm freaking out, wondering if Aisha's about to call him out, but she's still got her eyes on Daniels, who's looking more like a cornered animal by the second. Monroe's not letting up, demanding Daniels hand over his gun, but Grayson's whispering to the suit now, their heads close together. Whatever they're planning, it's not good. The crowd's getting antsy, phones still recording, and Carlos shouts, "Tell us what's going on, Grayson." Mrs. Larson tries to shut him up, but more neighbors are joining in, demanding answers. Aisha takes another step forward, her voice cutting through the noise. "You want to talk about misunderstandings," she says, staring right at Grayson. "How about you explain why properties in this neighborhood are being sold off to your buddies for pennies?" The crowd goes quiet again, and Grayson's face turns white. The suit guy steps in, trying to laugh it off, but Aisha's not done. "And you," she says, turning to him, "who's paying you to be here?" My heart's racing. She's putting it all on the line, right in front of everyone. Daniels raises his gun again, shouting, "Back off," but Monroe's on him in a flash, grabbing his arm. It's chaos now, everyone yelling, phones shaking, and I'm terrified this is about to explode. Jamal's still frozen, his mom holding him back, but I can see he's done waiting. He pulls out the note, hands trembling, and shows it to Tanya. Her eyes scan it, and her face changes, fear, anger, something else I can't read. She whispers, "You can't trust this," but Jamal's shaking his head, like he's ready to take the risk. I'm watching them, watching Aisha, watching Monroe wrestle with Daniels, and I'm thinking, This is it, this is where it all goes down. Is Aisha gonna have to take out Daniels herself? Is that suit guy gonna make a move? And what's in that note that's got Jamal and Tanya so scared? The sirens still ringing in my ears, the crowd's roaring, and Grayson's looking like a man who knows his time's up. Yo, we're teetering on the edge now, part 6 is gonna blow your mind. Drop a comment with your guesses about that suit guy or what's in Jamal's note, and let's see where this rollercoaster takes us next. Yo, what's good, everybody? We're at part 6, the big climax of this wild ride, and if you haven't seen parts 1 through 5, go back and watch those first, this one's gonna hit hard. We left off with Aisha, my Delta Force-trained wife, in a standoff with Officer Daniels, his gun shaking in his hand, while Sheriff Monroe's trying to take control and HOA boss Richard Grayson's sweating bullets. A suit guy tied to Grayson's shady real estate deals just showed up, throwing a glance at Jamal that's got him and his mom, Tanya, on edge about that mysterious note from Elizabeth Harper. The crowd's buzzing, phones are recording, and Mrs. Carter's video is about to blow this whole thing open. We're at the breaking point, and I'm about to take you through the most intense moments yet, with a final twist that'll leave you shook. Smash that like button, grab a seat, and let's see how this ends. The street's a pressure cooker, and it's about to explode. Sheriff Monroe's got her hand on Daniel's arm, her voice sharp as she orders him to drop the gun. Daniels is a mess, sweating, eyes darting between Aisha, Grayson, and the suit guy, like he's waiting for someone to tell him what to do. Aisha's still standing tall, her Delta Force training keeping her steady, but I can see that spark in her eyes, she's done playing nice. Grayson's trying to talk his way out, his voice all fake calm, but nobody's buying it anymore. The crowd's shouting, Carlos leading the charge with, "Tell us the truth, Grayson," while Mrs. Larson and the HOA loyalists try to shout them down. Mrs. Carter's still filming, and I catch her sending the video to someone, maybe the local news, maybe social media. I'm praying it's enough to bury these guys. But then Aisha speaks, loud and clear, and everything stops. "Grayson," she says, "your game's over. I've got proof of your real estate scam, documents, names, everything." The crowd gasps, and Grayson's face goes from white to gray. That's when it all goes down. Daniels panics, jerking his gun back up, but Aisha moves like lightning. In one smooth motion, faster than I've ever seen, she steps forward, twists his wrist, and has the gun out of his hand before he can blink. The crowd screams, and Monroe lunges in, cuffing Daniels as he stumbles back, cursing. Aisha hands the gun to Monroe, calm as ever, like she didn't just disarm a man in front of 50 people. I'm standing there, heart pounding, half proud, half terrified, because I know this isn't over. Grayson's shouting now, calling Aisha a liar, but the suit guy grabs his arm, whispering something that makes Grayson shut up fast. The crowd's roaring, phones catching every second, and I can feel the tide turning. Aisha's exposed them, and they're scrambling. Meanwhile, Jamal's at the edge of the crowd, his mom holding him tight. He's still got that note, and is shaking as he pulls it out again. Tanya's pleading with him, "Don't do it, Jamal," but he's had enough. He steps forward, holding up the note, and yells, "This is from Elizabeth Harper. She's with a tech company, but she's tied to Grayson's deals." The crowd turns, and even Aisha looks surprised. The suit guy's eyes widen, and he takes a step toward Jamal, but Tanya steps in front, fierce as a lion. "Stay away from my son," she snaps. Jamal's voice shakes, but he keeps going. "She offered me a scholarship, but it's not real, it's a way to get me to sign over our house." The crowd erupts, and I'm floored. Aisha was right, everything's connected. Harper's note was bait, part of Grayson's plan to push out families like Jamal's, using fake promises to trick them into giving up their homes. Sheriff Monroe's had enough. She turns to Grayson and the suit guy, her voice like steel. "You two, you're coming with me. I want those documents, and I want answers." Grayson tries to protest, but Monroe's not playing. She signals another deputy who's just arrived, and they start herding Grayson and the suit toward the patrol car. The crowd's cheering now, Carlos and others shouting, "Get him out of here." Mrs. Carter's video is spreading like wildfire. I see people sharing it on their phones, and I know it's only a matter of time before this hits the internet hard. Daniels is cuffed, Grayson's panicking, and the suit guy's trying to stay cool, but you can see he's rattled. Aisha looks at me, a small nod that says, "We got this," but I'm still on edge. Something feels off, like there's one more shoe to drop. That's when the final twist hits, and it's a gut punch nobody saw coming. As Monroe's leading Grayson away, a woman steps out of the crowd, tall, pregnant, and looking way too familiar. It's Elizabeth Harper herself, the woman from the bus who gave Jamal the note. The crowd parts, and Jamal's jaw drops. Tanya grabs his arm, whispering, "That's her?" Harper's calm, almost too calm, as she walks toward Monroe. "Sheriff," she says, "I'm the one who called you here. I've been working undercover, gathering evidence on Grayson's real estate scheme." My head's spinning. Aisha's staring at her, trying to figure out if she's legit. Harper turns to Jamal, her voice soft but firm. "I'm sorry for the secrecy, Jamal. The scholarship's real, but I had to make sure you were safe before I could tell you everything." She pulls out a folder and hands it to Monroe, pages of documents, emails, contracts, all tying Grayson and his buddies to a massive scam to gentrify Sunny Hills. The crowd's in shock, and I'm trying to wrap my head around it. Harper wasn't part of Grayson's crew, she was playing them, using her tech company cover to get close. The note's warning was to protect Jamal, not trap him. But before I can process it, Grayson lunges, trying to grab the folder from Monroe. Aisha's there in a flash, blocking him, and the deputy tackles him to the ground. The crowd's screaming, phones still rolling, and I'm just standing there, heart racing, as Monroe cuffs Grayson. Jamal's crying now, relief and fear all mixed together, and Tanya's holding him tight. Aisha walks over to me, her hand on my shoulder, and says, "We're not done yet." She's right, Grayson's down, Daniels is done, and the suit guy's in cuffs, but Harper's documents are gonna blow this wide open. Sunny Hills is about to change, and I'm not sure what that means for us. Yo, what's good, everybody? Imagine this, you're just trying to live your life, do the right thing, maybe help someone out, and then, beam, everything flips upside down. You're caught in a moment that feels like it's straight out of a movie, except it's real, and it's happening to you. That's exactly what went down with my wife, a black woman who's tougher than most people could ever dream of being, and a kid who thought he was just being kind to a stranger. This story's got it all: heart, courage, racism, betrayal, and a twist that'll leave your jaw on the floor. So, grab a seat, hit that subscribe button, and let's dive into this wild ride about a racist HOA, a gun pulled on the wrong woman, and a black teen whose small act of kindness sparked something life-changing. It all started in our quiet little neighborhood, the kind of place where people wave at each other but keep their secrets locked tight behind closed doors. My wife, Aisha, and I moved here a couple of years ago, thinking it'd be a fresh start. She's the kind of person who lights up a room, smart, fierce, and always ready to stand up for what's right. What the neighbors didn't know: Aisha's a retired Delta Force operative. Yeah, that Delta Force, the elite, no-joke special forces unit that handles missions most people only see in action flicks. She doesn't talk about it much, keeps that part of her life tucked away, but let me tell you, you don't mess with Aisha. Me? I'm just a regular guy, trying to keep up with her and make sure our life stays peaceful. But peace? That's hard to come by when you're black in a neighborhood run by an HOA that acts like they own your soul. The HOA here was something else. You know those types, always watching, always judging, ready to slap you with a fine if your grass is half an inch too long. They had this cop, Officer Daniels, who patrolled the community like he was auditioning for a bad cop show. Guy had a chip on his shoulder, especially when it came to folks who didn't look like him. Aisha and I felt his eyes on us every time we stepped outside. It wasn't just us, though. There was this kid, Jamal, a 17-year-old who lived a few houses down. Good kid, always helping out, mowing lawns for extra cash, keeping his head down. But to Daniels and the HOA board, he was just another problem they needed to keep in check. That's the kind of place we were living in, where doing the right thing could get you in trouble if your skin wasn't the right shade. One sunny afternoon, everything started to unravel. Aisha was out for her usual run, earbuds in, zoned out to her music. She's always been careful, but that day, she didn't notice Daniels tailing her in his patrol car. He'd been itching for a reason to mess with her, and I guess he figured that day was as good as any. He rolled up, lights flashing, and called her over. Now, Aisha's not one to back down, but she's smart, she knows how these things can go. She stopped, hands visible, calm as ever, and asked what the problem was. Daniels didn't have a good answer. Something about suspicious behavior in the neighborhood. Suspicious? She was jogging in broad daylight. But that's when things got ugly. He stepped out of the car, hand on his gun, and started barking orders like she was some kind of threat. My wife, Delta Force, trained to take down actual terrorists, stood there, staring down a man who thought he could intimidate her. I wasn't there, but when she told me later, I could feel the heat in her voice. She wasn't scared, she was pissed. And that's when Daniels made the worst mistake of his life. He pulled his gun. Now, hold up, before we get to what happened next, let me take you to another moment that ties into this. A couple of days earlier, Jamal, that kid I mentioned, was on a bus heading to his part-time job at the local grocery store. He's the kind of guy who'd give you the shirt off his back, no questions asked. That day, the bus was packed, and he noticed a pregnant white woman struggling to stand as the bus lurched along. Without a second thought, Jamal stood up and offered her his seat. She smiled, grateful, and took it. Most people would have left it at that, just another small act of kindness. But this woman, she did something unexpected. As she got off at her stop, she handed Jamal a folded piece of paper. No explanation, just a quick thank you and a look that said there was more to it. Jamal tucked the note in his pocket, figuring he'd read it later. Little did he know, that note was about to change everything. Back to Aisha and Daniels. Picture this, a quiet street, my wife standing tall, staring down the barrel of a gun held by a man who thought he had all the power. The HOA had been riding us for months, complaints about our car, our mailbox, even the way Aisha planted flowers in the front yard. It was never about the rules, it was about control. Daniels was their enforcer, and he was loving every second of this. But Aisha, she wasn't just some civilian he could bully. She'd been in situations way worse than this, trained to stay cool when most people would crack. She kept her hands up, her voice steady, and started talking him down. "You don't want to do this," she said, her eyes locked on his. "Put the gun down, and we can talk." Daniels smirked, thinking he had her cornered. What he didn't know was that Aisha could have disarmed him in about 3 seconds flat if she wanted to. But she didn't. Not yet. As the patrol cars pull away with Grayson, Daniels, and the suit, the crowd still buzzing, neighbors hugging, some crying, others shouting about justice. Mrs. Carter's videos already going viral. I see notifications popping up on people's phones. Jamal's holding the note, looking at Harper, who gives him a nod. "Call me tomorrow," she says. "We'll talk about that scholarship." Tanya's wary but starting to believe her. Aisha's watching Harper too, her Delta Force instincts still on high alert. I can tell she's not fully sold. Undercover or not, Harper's got some explaining to do. The HOA's scam is exposed, but what else are they hiding? And what's next for Sunny Hills? Yo, this story's been a roller coaster, and we're just getting started with the aftermath. Drop a comment with your thoughts on Harper's twist or what you think happens next, and let's keep this vibe going. Hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Yo, what's good, everybody? We're at the final part 7 of this wild ride, and if you haven't caught up on the first 6 parts, go binge those now because this one's wrapping it all up. We left off with the climax in Sunny Hills, Aisha, my Delta Force-trained wife, disarming Officer Daniels like a boss, exposing HOA kingpin Richard Grayson's real estate scam, and Sheriff Monroe cuffing the bad guys. Jamal's mysterious note from Elizabeth Harper turned out to be legit. She's an undercover investigator, not a villain, and her evidence nailed Grayson's crew. Mrs. Carter's video is going viral, the crowd's cheering, and the neighborhood's buzzing with a mix of relief and shock. But there's still some loose ends to tie up, questions to answer, and a future to figure out for Aisha, Jamal, and Sunny Hills. Let's dive into the aftermath, bring it all home, and leave you with something to think about. Hit that like button, subscribe, and let's close this out. The patrol cars are pulling away, their sirens fading as Grayson, Daniels, and the suit guy are hauled off to face the music. The crowd's still buzzing, neighbors hugging and talking over each other, some crying, others laughing like they've been holding it in for years. I'm standing there, my arm around Aisha, who's finally let her guard down, though her eyes are still scanning the crowd like the Delta Force operative she is. She's not one to relax until every threat's gone, and I can tell she's still got questions about Elizabeth Harper. Jamal and his mom, Tanya, are off to the side, talking quietly, the note still in his hand. Mrs. Carter's phone is blowing up with notifications, her video's already hit thousands of views, and people are sharing it like crazy, tagging news outlets and calling for justice. Sunny Hills feels different, like a weight's been lifted, but I know it's not over yet. Aisha squeezes my hand and says, "We need to talk to Harper." I nod, knowing she's not letting this go until every piece fits. We find Harper near Sheriff Monroe, who's flipping through the folder of evidence Harper handed over. Aisha walks up, her voice calm but firm. "You got some explaining to do," she says. Harper nods, like she expected this. She tells us her story. She's been investigating real estate scams across the state, and Grayson's operation in Sunny Hills was one of her targets. Her tech company Cover let her get close, posing as a recruiter to dig into the HOA's shady deals. The note to Jamal was real, the scholarship offer was legit, meant to help kids like him get out of neighborhoods being gutted by guys like Grayson. But the secrecy, that was to protect him. If Grayson knew I was onto him, Harper says, Jamal could have been a target. Aisha's eyes narrow, but she's listening. Tanya's there too, holding Jamal close, and she asks, "So my son's safe? This scholarship's for real?" Harper nods, pulling out a card with the tech company's logo. "Call me tomorrow, Jamal. We'll set up a meeting, no strings, just opportunity." Jamal's face lights up, but Tanya's still wary. She's been through too much HOA fines, Daniel's harassment, the constant pressure of keeping her son safe in a place that didn't want them. Aisha steps in, her voice soft but strong. "Tanya, I'll go with you to that meeting. We'll make sure it's real." Tanya nods, a tear slipping down her cheek, and Jamal hugs her tight. I'm watching this, feeling my chest swell. Aisha's always been a protector, not just for me but for everyone she cares about. She turns to Harper, one last question in her eyes. "Anything else we need to know?" Harper hesitates, then shakes her head. "You've got everything I do. The rest is up to the sheriff and the courts." Aisha nods, but I can tell she's filing that away, ready to keep digging if she has to. As the crowd starts to thin out, Carlos comes over, grinning like he just won the lottery. "Y'all did it," he says, clapping me on the shoulder. "Grayson's done, and this place might finally be livable." I laugh, but it's bittersweet. Sunny Hills has been home, but it's also been a battleground. Aisha's proof, those documents she found at the county office, was the key to cracking Grayson's scam. She'd been sneaking photos of paperwork, tracking Grayson's meetings, and piecing together how he and his real estate buddies were targeting black and brown families, hitting them with fines to force them out. Mrs. Carter's video was the spark, but Aisha's evidence was the fire. Sheriff Monroe tells us the documents are enough to open a full investigation, maybe even get the feds involved. Grayson's looking at serious charges, fraud, extortion, you name it. Daniels is done too, facing assault charges for pulling that gun on Aisha. Speaking of that gun, I'm still shook thinking about Aisha disarming Daniels. I ask her later, when we're back home, how she stayed so calm. She just shrugs, a little smile on her face. "Training kicks in," she says. "But honestly, I was thinking about you, about Jamal, about all of us who've been dealing with this crap. Couldn't let him win." That's Aisha, tough as nails but all heart. We sit on our couch, the neighborhood quiet for once, and I ask her what's next. She leans back, thinking. We stay. We fight for this place to be better. And we make sure Jamal gets that scholarship. I nod, knowing she's already planning how to keep Sunny Hills from falling back into the same old mess. The next day, Jamal and Tanya meet with Harper, and Aisha's right there with them. I tag along too, because after everything, I'm not letting Aisha out of my sight for a while. Harper's legit, her company's offering Jamal a full-ride scholarship to an engineering program, no strings attached. She explains that her investigation needed someone like Jamal, smart, kind, unnoticed by Grayson's crew, to help her get close to the truth. The note's warning was to keep him safe, not to trick him. Tanya's still cautious, but when she sees the paperwork, the official offer, she starts to smile. Jamal's practically glowing, talking about how he's gonna design bridges someday. Aisha gives him a proud nod, like she's known all along he's destined for big things. Me? I'm just happy to see him get a win after everything Sunny Hills put him through. The HOA's done for. With Grayson gone, the board falls apart. Mrs. Larson and the other cronies try to keep things running, but nobody's listening to them anymore. A new election's called, and Carlos steps up to run for president, promising to make the HOA about community, not control. Aisha's helping him, sharing her notes to make sure every shady fine gets refunded. Mrs. Carter's video hits national news, and Sunny Hills becomes a symbol of fighting back against corruption. People start reaching out, sharing their own stories of racist HOAs and shady real estate deals. Aisha and I even get a call from a lawyer who wants to start a class action lawsuit against Grayson's company. We're thinking about it, but for now, we just want to breathe. As for us, life's settling down, but it's different now. Aisha's still my hero, but she's also the neighborhood's. People stop by to thank her, bring her food, ask her advice. She laughs it off, but I can tell it means something. Jamal's getting ready for college, and Tanya's finally smiling more, like she can see a future for her son. Harper checks in now and then, making sure Jamal's set, and I think Aisha's starting to trust her. But the biggest takeaway? It's about standing up. Aisha didn't just disarm Daniels, she disarmed a whole system that tried to break us. Jamal didn't just get a scholarship, he showed us kindness can spark change. And Mrs. Carter? Her video reminded us that one person's courage can light up the truth. Sunny Hills isn't perfect. There's still work to do rebuilding trust, fixing what Grayson broke. But for the first time, it feels like home. Aisha and I walk the neighborhood now, no eyes following us, no fines in the mail. Jamal waves from his porch, already studying for his first semester. Carlos is planning a community barbecue, and even Mrs. Carter's there, her phone finally down, laughing with neighbors. This is our story about fighting racism, exposing corruption, and holding on to hope. Yo, thanks for riding with us through this. Drop a comment with what hit you hardest, share your own stories, and let's keep pushing